Allie Miller, Supervisor, District 1. Good morning, Allie.
How are you?
Good. I'm so happy that Chuck and Jim Ninsel have 14 hours on their hands to talk about your mileage.
It amazes me what Chuck spends his time on, sending 11-page memos, pulling posts off my Facebook page, because we have $1 million communications department that spends all their time doing that. So he'll pull a post off. He'll hear me on your show because he's got software that he bought specifically for that purpose to record.
Oh, well, good morning, everybody over at Pima County.
That he's spending taxpayer dollars on. And then he'll spend hours with wrong, incorrect, false, true and false. I mean, you see the memos. I send them over. It's just unbelievable what he spends his time on, and we're paying him $320,000 a year. Now, on this county car mileage, I filled out one in 2013 when I used the car for the full year. It was over $4,000 for personal miles. You have to pay to and from work. Well, it's considered income, to and from work, and then I added some miles just to make sure I didn't, I was fully covered if I stopped at the grocery store on the way home, whatever. And so this year, I signed my form, handed it to a staff member, didn't see it again until I put this issue about county cars on the agenda, and then it comes back, and when it said I only had 100 miles, I asked one of my staff members, I said, give me a copy of what we submitted. That isn't right, clearly. And they didn't have a copy. So we requested a copy from the clerk of the board, and it isn't my handwriting. That's pretty clear. And so I don't know how that number got in there, 100 miles. I mean, clearly, driving to and from work 3 times gives me 100 miles. So I, fixed it, filled out the form, sent it over, and fixed it, and it will amount to me doing having a little bit more income and having to adjust that. So that's that. But of course, they're going to get as much mileage out of this and make it sound like I would. Petty. I mean, Channel 13 saying I falsified my report. I mean, I'm the one who fixed it. So, end of the day, it is much ado about nothing, and they have nothing but things going against them, and they lost their bonds, so they're not happy. So they're going to. It's fully expected. It's an election year. You're going to continue to see this kind of stuff.
So we haven't talked to you since after the bond election. What does this tell you, and what do you see, and what are you hearing out there regarding the voters and the resounding no that we saw?
Yeah, and this is the thing. We have a lot of the yes folks and a lot of the no folks came into the meeting on Tuesday, and what I am absolutely stunned by is these were the yes folks were the ones who said to me, and I voted no on moving this forward because I didn't think the bond package was all wrong, the timing was wrong, et cetera. And they'd come in there every week for months telling me that, let the voters decide, let the voters decide. Well, the voters decided.
Right.
Resoundingly no. We're not giving you any more money. We don't trust you. I think that's what I hear loud and clear. We don't trust you. You are not showing results with the money you get. We give you $1.1 billion per year. That's what the budget is. What are you doing with it? And no one's seeing results, and people have had it, and they're not going to vote to give them any more money. And, we keep hearing about all of these things. And the county cars. This is another example. They all have county cars. I turned mine in over a year ago. And the 4 of them, I put this on the agenda, and the right thing to do, because we make a salary of $76,500, and the median income here in Pima County is $44,000. And in the meeting, I put it on, and I made a motion to deny, and Chuck said, we'd only save $1,000 a year or $1,000 if they all turned in their cars. I think we all know better that a car, some of them are driving a $40,000 car. Mm. And the interesting thing that came out of that meeting was they're not following their own procedures. They're not following IRS guidelines. You must keep business mileage logs, and none of them are doing it. Mm. None of them are getting their forms signed. And I brought this up in the meeting. We're not following procedures, and I'm very concerned by not keeping business mileage logs, the purpose, the mileage you drive. they are not following the IRS laws. So I think Pima County's at risk there, and I hope they start keeping those mileage logs. But
so in looking at the canvas of the electorate, broken down by district and what's happening, what was shocking to you, or where do you see kind of the biggest issues, or where do you see there's some soft areas? Nothing
really shocked me, because I heard from all over, and then I thought, well, maybe I'm kind of in an echo chamber here, but I'm all over the community, not just in District 1, and I was hearing a resounding no. We've given money, we've passed bonds in the past, we haven't gotten the results that they promised, projects not done, and so District, you look at District 4, historically, they vote no on bonds.
I think Dan Shear said the turnout was at 90-some percent.
No.
What was the turnout in district? In that, some of those precincts had
60s,
60%.
You said the ones that were higher. There was one in Oro Valley that was really high.
I forget overall. I think the overall
he'll be on in 20 minutes. We'll find out again.
Yeah. The overall turnout was about, I think, 32 or 38%. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it was in a unusually high turnout for an off-year election. And I think we all know why Chuck runs these bonds in off years, because they expect low turnouts, and then they can get their folks out to vote heavily and get these things passed.
You sprinkle the goodies to a bunch of organizations. All those organizations work the ballots and get people to turn out and vote. In a low turnout election, they can swing it.
Right, and they spend a lot of money.
And I love how they're crying about how the yes people are crying that there wasn't a good enough turnout.
Really?
Yeah, I find that really interesting.
It was a great turnout.
And, getting back to these cars is just the same thing over and over again. They all the four of them, they deferred to Chuck. Mr. Huckleberry, what do you recommend?
So what was the final thing on the cars yesterday?
Well,
where did we end up?
Yeah, Mr. Huckleberry recommended they keep the cars, and that's it. And none of them would even give me a second to eliminate the cars. When we have people hurting in this community and the median wage is $44,000 a year, I think it's obscene that these people are driving county cars. And there's a lot of them. I think there needs to be an audit for the whole county. There's over 1,600 cars. Law enforcement, I think those need to be looked at as well, but I think they're justified. If you look at the count for wastewater, there's 30-some-odd take-home vehicles. And why? Why would you have 30-some-odd take-home vehicles for wastewater?
Somebody needs to flush the toilet.
How many wastewater?
30. I think 33 or 35.
Ugh.
And I got an answer that was unacceptable. But the report I got said 33. And it's interesting every time. It's always the same with these four board members. Real leaders, they brainstorm, they find solutions, they solve problems. This group, they blame storm. Every single time, they've got to blame somebody for what the problems are in the county. They make these decisions to increase property taxes 61 cents per hundred of assessed value.
Wasn't that like a month before the ballot election, too? Talk about hubris.
Well, there's another increase coming, folks. It's not as big as that one, but they've sent out a brochure in the tax bills blaming the state. Doug Ducey, it was his fault, the legislature's fault. And, I just look at it and I go, at some point, we've got to take responsibility for our actions. We raised the property taxes. I voted no, but when you guys vote to raise the property taxes, step up and answer for it instead of deferring to Chuck Huckleberry. I mean, it is stunning to me that these individuals have been sitting in that office, some of them for 20 years, and they never take responsibility for their actions. They defer to Chuck Huckleberry.
So let's get to the reality of the politics of this. So you had this overwhelming defeat of bonds.
Yeah.
What does the next 12 months what has to happen in the next 11 and a half months to build on that voter unhappiness with what's going on and change the place?
Well, what needs to happen and what will happen are two different things. The first thing we need to do is cut the property taxes. How do we do that? We, first of all, eliminate the wasteful spending, and there's a ton of it, I can tell you that. I've seen a lot of it, and I bet there's a whole lot more. Prioritize our spending to the core services that Pima County needs to provide, and number one is the roads. We get HERF and monies in every year, And after we pay for the bond payment that from the 97 road bonds, we have $33 million per year. And people are sick and tired of the fact that that money is not getting to the roads. It's getting everywhere but the roads. And a big thing, we've got to have a climate that promotes development, economic development. What does that mean? We need to have the regulatory part out of the way, and I think we've done, Carmine DeBonis and Development Services has done a pretty good job over there. They have a good process getting things through. We got to stop the lawsuits impeding private sector business. Rosemont Copper, there is an economic driver that has been foiled by Pima County. The Star Valley deplatting, there is a developer with a home builder waiting to build homes, but they cannot because of a lawsuit because Pima County wanted to deplat their property. The bike ranch that was supposed to go in on the east side, Ray Carroll stopped that. Catalina, there was a 24-home development up in Catalina, zero objection from the neighborhood, passed unanimously by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Ray Carroll didn't like the developer on it, and he made a motion to deny, and that all of them followed suit. These are the kinds of things that are killing our community and impeding private sector investment. And the Dallas firefighter, what happened there? They made sure they didn't get water to that property. They lost their shirt on it. If you go over to Texas online newspapers and read about that, the folks in Dallas said, I can't believe those fools invested in Pima County. Everyone knows if you invest in Arizona, you go to Maricopa County. Those are the kinds of things.
So the folks in the capital world that spend money, put money in, and look at the game board, if it's not clear, if you don't know the end result, you sit back and don't put capital in your marketplace.
Why would you invest here with all of these things being raised up on the flagpole? And then if you looked at this bond election, it was picking the winners and losers, and it was going to be county taxpayer supplied economic development to compete with the private sector, and we would get very little investment.
Hey, Allie, is the county still suing Raytheon over their property taxes?
I believe that finally stopped.
Okay.
They finally got that settled, and as far as I know, they're not suing again this year.
Well, that's good.
But that was the Board of Supervisors that voted to do that, and then they deferred to the county assessor after the election year started. But it was the Board of Supervisors that voted to sue Raytheon, and then they come out and say they're supportive of Raytheon. These are the kinds of things, and they sued IBM, they sued Honeywell. This is the kind of thing that just over property taxes that is killing our community. Why would you want to come here if you're at risk? And when you look at these lawsuits, you're going, I come in here, I invest in good faith, and just because someone doesn't like me,